everything Google announced at I/O 2026, new Gemini 3.5 Flash and Gemini Omni AI model. AI spending projected to reach $2.9 trillion in 2026. NVIDIA's Jensen Huang bankrolls the AI boom with a $90 billion deal spree. If you're trying to keep up with the latest models and the shifting tech landscape, you already know things move incredibly fast. Welcome to Anuku.com, AI news you can use, your daily dose of AI know-how. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing that while you slept, an invisible, tireless digital workforce managed your entire life. It negotiated your bills, rewrote your company's codebase, predicted the exact moment a critical piece of infrastructure might fail, and audited decades-old banking systems for security flaws. You didn't lift a single finger. That is the reality we just crossed into. We've spent the last few years trapped in a passive relationship with technology. The chatbot paradigm conditioned us to be initiators. You type a prompt, you wait for the inference. The computational process where the AI actually generates your answer, you get your response, and then the system goes dormant. It has zero memory of the interaction, no persistent state, and absolutely zero initiative. But looking at the sweeping architectural changes deployed across the industry this month, especially with the massive Google I/O 2026 rollout, that passive chatbot framework is officially legacy tech. It's completely dead. We have crossed the threshold into the agentic era. The fundamental difference here is autonomy versus response. An assistant waits for a command. An agent observes an environment, formulates a multi-step plan, executes it, and adjusts to real-time friction without ever coming back to ask for your input. Google completely restructuring their entire Gemini ecosystem around this principle is the ultimate validation of this trend. They didn't just update models, they fundamentally inverted the relationship between the user and the compute. The technical lineup totally proves that inversion. We have Gemini Omni, their flagship multimodal engine, that natively processes video, audio, text, and spatial data simultaneously without clunky translation layers. But the actual workhorse, the model they made the default across their entire consumer and enterprise suite, is Gemini 3.5 Flash. This is super interesting because they have Gemini 3.15 Pro reserved for deep reasoning tasks, but Flash is the baseline. Let's ground this with a practical scenario to illustrate the sheer scale of administrative relief. Think about a freelance graphic designer. Historically, a freelancer's day is consumed by logistical friction, chasing payments, scheduling, and handling endless administrative overhead. In the agentic era, their persistent cloud agent monitors their inbox 24/7. It intercepts a client requesting a rush job, which normally throws a wrench into everything. The agent reads the request, autonomously cross-references the project deadline with the designer's Google Calendar, sees a conflict, and without the designer opening a single tab, drafts a personalized invoice that includes a rush fee. It's brilliant. It then cross-references past due accounts and autonomously sends polite, formatted follow-up emails to late-paying clients. It does all of this completely invisibly. The designer wakes up, opens their laptop, and sees the rush job negotiated and late payments chased down. They didn't lift a finger. It is the ultimate elimination of operational friction. However, we have to talk about the flip side. Removing that human bottleneck introduces a profound vulnerability regarding authorization. This is the exact friction point we must address. Giving a digital entity autonomous read and write access to your financial accounts and client communications is essentially handing the keys to your house to an overly enthusiastic intern. You are handing your livelihood to a system operating on statistical probability. How do we trust these systems without accidentally doing something catastrophic? What if it deletes a critical database or buys a car you didn't authorize while you sleep? That fear is why the industry developed a solution called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. Autonomy without boundaries is a disaster waiting to happen. MCP functions as the standardized architectural boundary for these agentic systems. You don't grant an agent universal access to your life. You utilize MCP to establish highly granular cryptographic permission gates. Think of it as a strict policy engine. Taking the freelancer example, the agent might have read-only access to monitor emails and draft responses, but MCP dictates a hard boundary. The agent cannot execute a financial transaction or officially send an invoice over a certain amount without a physical cryptographic signature from the human. When the agent reaches that boundary, it hits a wall. It pauses the workflow and sends a push notification to your device requiring biometric verification. It ensures the AI can do 99% of the preparatory legwork, but the human retains absolute deterministic control over the final execution of high-consequence actions. Speaking of letting agents loose in our digital lives, the volume of background actions is forcing a massive structural change. If the vast majority of our digital interaction is happening invisibly in the cloud, the traditional user interface, the screen and keyboard, becomes an archaic bottleneck. The screen as we know it is disappearing into the background. The graphical user interface was designed for active manipulation. Ambient computing requires ambient interfaces. We are seeing the first major casualty of this shift with Google Search. They rolled out their AI mode redesign, effectively killing the 10 blue links model that defined the internet for 2 decades. The classic search era is over. The concept of an index you browse has been replaced by an intelligent search box powered by continuous information agents. You no longer submit a query and get a static list of websites. You assign a persistent research task. If you are researching something complex, the agent monitors the web for newly published data long after you close the browser, surfacing synthesized reports asynchronously. That assistant tracking is the engine behind the Universal Cart initiative, fundamentally altering consumer economics. Universal Cart is an AI layer tracking your intent across platforms like Search, Gmail, and YouTube, holding items in a unified digital holding pattern. It autonomously monitors the web for price drops and compatibility, eliminating e-commerce fragmentation. Imagine a user super into outdoor gear watching an obscure YouTube video about extreme winter camping. They see a highly specialized thermal tent. Using natural language seamlessly without pausing the video, they ask their AI to find that exact tent. The agent identifies the visual schematic, scrubs the web, finds it across obscure retailers, compares pricing, and holds it in the Universal Cart. It waits until a holiday discount hits 3 months later, drops below the preset price threshold, and instantly executes the purchase via those MCP permissions. The transaction is completely decoupled from human attention. We are seeing this exact interaction model forced into productivity software too. With Ask YouTube, users can interrogate an hour-long video, extracting specific multimodal data points without watching it. With Docs Live, users generate, format, and cross-reference massive documents entirely through voice commands. The system interprets the intent and structures the data autonomously. But here's the catch. All of this software innovation hits a physical wall. If software disappears into ambient agents, the physical hardware you use becomes the ultimate point of leverage. Big tech realizes whoever controls the endpoint controls the primary data stream. It is an aggressive pivot towards spatial and wearable computing. Google's tease of their intelligent eyewear is the clearest indicator. They are starting with a heavily audio-focused approach powered by Gemini models for real-time translation and context-aware assistance, partnering with Samsung for silicon and brands like Warby Parker and Gentle Monster for socially acceptable frames. They have Project Aura in the pipeline, integrating high-fidelity displays alongside the Android XR ecosystem. The push for wearables is vital for context. An agent can only be truly proactive if it understands your immediate physical reality. Microphones and outward-facing cameras on eyewear provide that continuous contextual data stream. But processing massive streams of sensory data in real time introduces a severe latency and bandwidth problem. You cannot beam 4K video to a cloud server, wait for inference, and beam it back to glasses in real time without massive lag. Which brings us to the explosion of the AI PC and local edge computing. Look at Microsoft's strategy with their Surface for Business line. They are embedding Intel Core Ultra Series 3 chips and the upcoming Snapdragon X2 chips directly into PCs. These are neural processing units, or NPUs, specialized silicon designed specifically to run massive AI math locally on your device instead of on a distant server. That transition from cloud compute to edge compute is arguably the most important architectural shift of the decade. Processing models locally on the NPU drastically reduces cloud server costs and completely eliminates internet latency. The real driver, especially for the enterprise sector, is data sovereignty and security. If a hospital is summarizing highly sensitive patient records, they legally cannot send unencrypted data across the open internet. Local inferencing ensures data never leaves the physical hardware. You might be thinking about the consumer reality of this hardware shift. We are talking about wearing glasses equipped with cameras and microphones, constantly listening and reading our surroundings. We have PCs running local models, monitoring every keystroke. Aren't we voluntarily strapping a permanent surveillance state to our faces and desks? Hardware manufacturers are acutely aware that privacy fears are the single biggest threat to adoption. That is why companies like Microsoft engineer privacy directly into physical hardware. They build software-driven privacy screens natively into Surface displays and utilize secure enclaves within NPUs to ensure data is permanently isolated and cannot be accessed remotely. The social contract they are attempting to establish is based on ephemeral processing. The promise is that the AI observes everything in real time to assist you, but the data is purged from local memory the exact millisecond the inference is complete, never transmitted to a central corporate cloud server. Building trust in ephemeral architecture is literally the only way ambient computing scales. Taking AI to the edge isn't just about making shopping easier. When you combine local inferencing with specialized hardware, you fundamentally rewrite how we handle life or death scenarios in the physical world. The inflection point occurs when we transition from generative AI to predictive analytical AI operating in high-stakes environments. Arceus is the perfect example. They are an autonomous defense technology firm that raised 17.7 million USD. They deploy AI-powered hyperspectral optical sensing directly onto autonomous military drones. Hyperspectral imaging captures electromagnetic wavelengths far beyond the visible human spectrum, detecting specific chemical compositions on the ground, penetrating camouflage, or identifying explosive compounds. This is where edge compute becomes mission critical. A drone in a contested military environment cannot rely on a stable satellite uplink to stream data back to command. It would be jammed immediately. The Arceus system processes that hyperspectral data directly on the drone's physical NPU in real time, detecting and tracking targets autonomously at high speeds with zero latency. The undisputed center of gravity for all this capital is NVIDIA. They executed a $90 billion investment spree, taking strategic stakes in 145 different companies. They are the primary hardware supplier, the primary customer, the infrastructure they fund, and the venture capitalists driving the software. That monopoly creates intense international friction, driving aggressive domestic silicon development. Alibaba recently pushed its Zhenwu M890 chip, engineered to power massive domestic AI scaling in China. The desperation to secure silicon is reaching a boiling point. OpenAI instituted a guaranteed capacity program, locking Fortune 500 enterprises into strict 1 to 3 year compute contracts just to guarantee server space. The infrastructure war is also a brutal war for talent and tooling. Andrej Karpathy joined Anthropic with an explicit mandate to automate their pre-training system. Anthropic also acquired Stainless, a company specializing in SDK generation, immediately shutting down competitors' access to those tools. It is a ruthless land grab, and the demand is there. The latest Microsoft Global AI Diffusion report highlighted a 78% increase in global code pushes. AI is expanding tech output rather than shrinking it. You might wonder if we are building a $2.59 trillion house of cards. The risk of overcapacity is real. However, the demand for agentic workflows guarantees server farms will be pushed to their limits. Millions of autonomous agents operating persistently in the background require an unyielding stream of processing power. But you can't push trillions of dollars into a system without hitting a wall of friction from the public, the government, and the code itself. A report regarding Anthropic's Mythos model, autonomously uncovering decades-old zero-day vulnerabilities in legacy financial infrastructure, sparked total enterprise panic. When an AI can deconstruct the security of the digital world faster than humans can patch it, that is a massive problem. The public backlash is here, with protests over job losses, massive data center energy consumption, and deep social trust issues. That bleeds into legal battles. Sam Altman and OpenAI just won a rapid jury victory over Elon Musk, dismissed on a statute of limitations technicality, paving the way for their $1 trillion IPO. Governments are demanding pre-release testing mandates for frontier models. We are seeing global governance take shape, like the Canada and Spain bilateral AI cooperation agreement. Content integrity is huge right now. Gemini Omni outputs are forced to use SynthID watermarking, and OpenAI is expanding SynthID and C2PA credentials. To build trust, they are pushing the human element. Apple Intelligence updated accessibility with Vision Pro eye tracking for wheelchairs. Applied Systems uses AI through Applied Recon to save insurance agencies 8 hours a week, automating commission reconciliation. But if governments force AI labs into strict pre-release testing, it might stifle innovation and ensure only the richest companies can play. You have to treat AI as a potential weapon of mass disruption, but also as a democratizing tool. Over-regulate and you crush innovation. Under-regulate and you invite disaster. Consider what happens when your AI shopping agent interacts with the retailer's AI pricing agent. Very soon, the vast majority of digital communication and negotiation won't be human to machine, but machine to machine. We are building an entirely new invisible economy. Before we get into the final takeaways, just a reminder that you can find more insights like this at inuku.com. Let's summarize the key takeaways and actionable insights from today. The transition from passive chatbots to active, background agents is fully underway. The standard for tech interaction is shifting from prompting for answers to orchestrating agents that observe and execute autonomously, like Gemini Spark and Anti-Gravity 2.0. To support this, edge computing via local NPUs is becoming critical, solving massive latency and privacy bottlenecks by processing data directly on your device. From an economic standpoint, the $2.59 trillion being injected into the space proves that compute is no longer just a commodity. It is the fundamental utility powering a new machine-to-machine economy. If you are building in this space, focus on specialized domain-specific data to eliminate hallucinations and prepare for strict architectural boundaries like the Model Context Protocol to manage agent permissions safely. And that's your daily dose of AI know-how. From inuku.com, AI news you can use.